What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the I Am Podcast, your go-to podcast for anything startups, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I am Mariah, your host, and this is your guide to your journey. This is for innovators and founders who want to succeed in life by learning from the mistakes and success of others. I just wanted to say that if you are a new listener here, be sure to go to iamops.io. Okay, today's guest is one of the leading tech marketers and influencers in the tech ecosystem. He leads Omri Hurwitz Media, a media agency specializing in media coverage, public relations. He also writes and contributes for high-profile media publications such as Entrepreneur, Hackernoon, Times of Israel, Israel Forbes, New York Tech, Yahoo Finance, and many more. Now, let's get started. Welcome to our series entitled The I Am Podcast, a podcast about innovation, business, and most importantly, people. In this series, we'll be talking to founders, executives, and various experts about their vision, challenges, best practices, and lessons learned throughout their journey. Let's get started. How did Omri Hurwitz Media start? I mean, how did you ever get into writing or media?
Awesome. Great question. So I started out after my army service in Israel. I moved to California. I spent there some time, and then I actually grew up in California. I was born. Let me start the whole story. It'll be very short, but there's some context to it. So I was born in Israel, but then we moved as a family to California. I spent my time, growing up in California, and then we moved back to Israel. I also did my army service in Israel, and then after my army service, I went to California again. And when I was in California, I was kind of searching for myself. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? And I knew I liked writing. I loved writing, and I was writing for a local newspaper in Israel at that time. And when I came back to Israel a few months later, I started to get into digital marketing, and then I actually started to do PR in the travel industry. How did that came about? There was this businessman who I went to consult with, and he basically told me, I like you, I'm going to give you the first opportunity, I'll be your first client. And then he was in the travel industry, so I went into that. It was an amazing experience. I would travel a lot to like Cyprus and London and do a lot of crazy stuff, and I really learned from that a lot. And then I met this guy named Yoel Israel. He's the CEO of Wadi Digital. Maybe you should interview him as well. He's big time for sure.
I saw him on the feed.
He's amazing.
Okay,
He's amazing. So I met him, and he told me, listen, Omri, I don't remember, don't quote me, but he said something along the lines of, listen, Omri, I think you should work with tech startups. You should work with there's a lot of opportunities in tech and technology. And then I joined his agency, and I worked for his agency in advertising. So LinkedIn ads, Google ads. I did that for about a year, I think. I learned so much from this guy. He mentored me, and he really opened up my world to LinkedIn, and he did a really great job in kind of providing me with insights and and a lot of tactics that I did not know of. And then I said, okay, I like working with tech startups, but I'd rather do PR and not advertising. And in that moment, I left the advertising agency and built Omri Hurwitz Media, which is the leading modern PR agency in Israel today, a leading modern tech PR agency. And during that time, I started writing for the Times of Israel, for Forbes, for Yahoo Finance, for a lot of different publications. And I saw there's a big gap in the industry. What was the gap? The gap is that a lot of old school traditional PR agencies, they're like real estate brokers, right? Give me good news, I'll put it out to my reporter friends or whatever. But they're not marketers. And because I came from a marketing background, and I came from understanding how data and analytics work, I built a modern PR company that is able to provide to create news and to generate news for clients, even if they don't have something that's quote unquote newsworthy. So that's basically, what I did. And of course, I have the podcast, which I interviewed a lot of VCs and entrepreneurs, and I write for many, many publications, and we work with tons of clients. So that's about it. Yeah.
Amazing. So first, two things. So that's why you got that accent.
Yeah.
Because you lived in California. And next, Yoel Israel,
Yoel
right?
Israel, yeah.
So he led you to the startup world. Was that difficult, or was that ingrained in you because you're from the army, you don't have to learn about startups?
That's a great question. So that's a great question. So there's two sides to this story. Okay, one is that I grew up in California. My dad is in tech. My dad is in high tech. That's why I grew up in the Silicon Valley. My friends in the Silicon Valley, their fathers or their mothers were also in tech. So from a young age, I was exposed to VCs and to the startup landscape, and my dad. So I learned a lot from being his son, right? But I never thought about going into tech. I've never thought about it until I met Yoel Israel. So there's kind of two sides to this. So both play a big part. One is the upbringing, and the other one is meeting Yoel, for sure.
Okay. And you said you saw the big pain, right? What is the big pain, and how big is PR in Israel?
That's a great question. So the pain is it's a pretty simple one. Imagine a startup, okay? A startup just raised money. Let's say they raised $10 million in seed money, in Series A money, whatever. And they have something that's newsworthy. This startup raised money, it is newsworthy. So what they do is they take a traditional PR agency, and that PR agency gets them a TechCrunch article or something like that, which is great. And we do that as well. But after that funding announcement, most startups don't have any press about them. Why? Because they don't have something that's newsworthy. Something that's newsworthy is something that it's a certain event in the lifetime of a company. A funding announcement, a product launch, a partnership, a big partnership, or an exit, right? And not a lot of startups have that consistently. And the problem is they're not able to generate brand awareness and demand generation when it counts, which is at those times between the newsworthy items, right? And then we understood that a company always has to be in the news. Every startup, not only if they have a funding announcement, they always need to be in the news. They always need to have content about them written. And we figured out strategies to do that. And also strategies that are focused on their product and their technology, and not only on something that is conceived newsworthy.
Okay, in between the announcement, in between the funding, the partnership, they should make noise, right? They couldn't afford to stop. Okay, you don't do the old school communication. What is the modern PR approach? How do you said you don't pitch, right? You don't pitch. So how do you do that?
Okay, so we do pitch, but we don't pitch in the traditional sense. Okay, so there's a few things. One, we have really, really deep connections with reporters. The second thing is we have an analytics software that we use. How do we connect the both things, right? We understand because remember, reporters, they want to get clicks. Reporters want to get traction to their articles. So what we do is we analyze what type of content that a specific reporters went viral, and then we build a strategy of how our clients can a story about our clients, or a story about our client's industry that mentions our clients, or an interview with the CEO of our client is able to go viral. And once we show that reporter that this specific story has a potential to go viral, this gives the reporter an incentive to write the article. So that's basically one way. The other thing is, why do I say that we don't pitch? Because while we do technically pitch, is traditional PR, what they do is they have a list. They have a list of like 100 reporters, and they just pitch them, about a story. So they would have like a story. Let's say Omri and Maria are having launching a new podcast episode, and then they will make a press release or like a short pitch out of that conversation, and they will spam it and send it out to like 100 of their contact list. That's a problem, because the reporters then understand that they're basically mass pitching and that it's not relevant for them, and there's no benefit out of it. We don't do that. We go one reporter at a time, and we try to fit the story and the context to that specific reporter. And this is really complicated. This is a really complicated. Why? Because a reporter, he works on different things every single day. So you need to really time your pitch to what he's currently working on. So if he's focusing on like the creator economy right now, you need to tailor your pitch on the creator economy. You need to see how your clients fit into that story. You need to make sure you time it, accordingly. So there's like a lot of different things that we do. And there's also like media amplification that we do after the articles get live to make sure they go viral. But this is some stuff that I don't like sharing, because this is some tactics that we we invested tons and tons of hours building.
Tons.
Yeah, it's a long time. You know how it is. It's a lot of work. And yeah, but that's some of the things we do for modern PR.
Speaking of connections, like leading high-profile editors, how do you maintain? So you said we don't just send out spammy emails to them, right? So how do you maintain that, like monitor what they're up or into, what news they want?
Love it. First of all, remember, I write for a lot of publications. Because I write for all those publications, I know the editors personally. So it's different. I'm not coming from like a different, so I know them. So when I pitch them, they're friends, right? They're not just the reporters that I don't know and that we develop relationships through the years. Is basically, it always starts on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I follow their content, they follow my content. We build a relationship, and then basically I just follow up on everything they do. So for example, I have some friends that are reporters. I would have a list of I would bookmark their columns, and every time there's a new article, I click and see what they wrote about. Well, nowadays I have someone on my team that kind of does it for me, but essentially that's the infrastructure. So basically, like if you want to follow about what I write, you go to Omri Hurwitz, Newsbreak, or Hackernoon, or whatever. You bookmark my column, and then you basically, every time there's a new article, you click, you see what I wrote about, and then you have context to what's going on with me.
You really follow the person, like what I did with you.
Exactly.
Like what is he up to?
Exactly.
Okay, so podcasting is one of the media channels, right? When did you have that idea? Like, okay, I'll start podcasting.
Love it. Great question. So I actually started it while I was working with Yoel. So what happened was, it was COVID. Nobody was going out of the house, right? And I was always looking to do something extra, like always looking to see how I can do more media stuff. And then I said, why not I just do like short interviews with leaders and just post them? And it started like really simple and really fast. I got all the big guests really fast in Israel. Like I got all the big VCs and everything. And then it just started amplifying, and I always focus on improving it every single day. How can I improve the podcast? How can I improve the show? How can I distribute it? And today, the podcast is distributed in like almost, all the leading tech publications, in like Newsbreak and Hackernoon and Times of Israel and, and Value Walk and, so many, and New York Tech Media who sponsor the podcast. So it's like in a lot of different publications, and yeah, it's always a work in progress for sure.
Well, what is the story that you can't forget because people are thanking you because of what you did?
That's a good question. In terms of what, in the media or in general, like
media
first.
Is that Eldad? I saw Eldad there. Was he like? You said, "Wow, Eldad." is everywhere.
Eldad is everywhere. Okay, so I think what we get praised for, or I get praised for a lot, I think, is because in the end of the day, everyone, even all my followers, they only care about themselves, and that is fine. That is completely fine. And the people who kind of really thank me a lot are the people who I'm able to generate lots of press for. Eldad, who WinAI is one of our clients, so we're able to get them a lot of press coverage. So, those type of people are the people who are really like, they thank me a lot because we're able to amplify them. We're able to amplify their brand awareness, their demand generation, and take them to the next level.
Amazing, yes. So he was really everywhere. And did you also coach him? This is what you have to do on your LinkedIn, or this is how you post, things like that?
So Eldad, usually yes. Usually the answer would be yes, but with Eldad the answer is no, because Eldad specifically is a LinkedIn influencer, and he's already built that. He kind of built that on LinkedIn. But I did give him a lot of advice on how he should talk to the press while he's being interviewed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's a combination with Eldad specifically.
Okay, and I'm down to my last few questions. You write very well. So where did you learn that? What inspires you? How long do you write one article? Or any tips about writing? How to create a good copy?
Awesome. So the first thing, I started writing when I was in the army. I was getting bored and I just started writing. It wasn't because I was bored. It was because I was going through a lot of emotional stuff back then, and writing was a great outlet for me. So I started writing over there. The second thing is the actual tips is, listen, you need to find your flow. There's a lot of technical tips of how you should write, how you should divide the paragraphs, how you should do all those stuff, which are really helpful tips. But the most important thing is flow. You need to be able to sit and start writing. Today, when I write, it comes out of flow. I don't really need to think about it. I just sit and just write. It comes out naturally for me because I trained myself to be in a flow state while writing, right? So for example, we have people in our team that are writers. Some of them, they would sit and they would do a bullet points before, and they would think about the headline before, and they will, they would do that really systematically. And I think that's good, that's great. But I specifically do flow state. So I know what I want to write about. I just go all in, and then I just edit it afterwards. So that's what my writing style is, but everyone's writing style is different. A few really practical stuff. Always work with Grammarly. I heard WordTune is a great app. I don't use it myself, but I heard it's great. Always work with Grammarly. Always work with and organize bullet points if you want to do it in a systematical way. And always tell yourself when this should be done. Always. So always have a timeline for every piece of writing you do. So I want to finish this in 1 hour. I want to finish this in 2 hours. And this will push you to do that.
I love that. I just listened to one coach, and he said your brain kind of consumes, if you don't put a timeline, it's forever.
Exactly.
You can do it, right? So you have to, done is better than perfect. So just
100%. And I think one of my biggest writing tips is exactly that, because you need to create quantity. Everyone is so focused on quality, but listen, if you don't have enough quantity, it doesn't matter what the quality is. You're not gonna go above the noise, right? So even this podcast that you do with me, you need to do 1,000 more, right? Just so you can go above the noise and create awareness.
Yeah, you really have to put yourself out there, be consistent until people notice you.
Exactly.
Okay, so did I forget anything that you want to share? Or because people are also startups, early stage startups. The reason for this podcast is to really get to know the community of startups, build some relationship with them. So any tips or advice?
Okay, so I think the best advice is to be a person of value, right? Be a person of value. Networking is bullshit if you're not able to provide value. I never networked for the sake of networking. I always came with value. So when I come to someone, I always tell them, listen, let's meet up and I'll do this for you and maybe you can do this for me. It sounds like super mechanical, but it works. The problem that I see in the ecosystem right now, a lot of people are spamming me with direct messages and with WhatsApps. Omri, let's meet. Omri, I have to meet you. Omri, let's meet. And okay, I understand you want to meet, but why? What's the agenda? What are you aiming to do? What's your thing? And there's this one person, I'm not going to mention his name, but this is a perfect example. This guy is obsessed with meeting me. He's obsessed with meeting me. And I always tell them, okay, you want to meet. What do you do? I can't, through your LinkedIn, I don't understand what's your profession. What are you trying to do? And he tells me, I will only tell you if we meet. What the fuck, dude? Tell me what you do so I know if it's worth the investment and if I know that I have context for the meeting, right? So, yeah. So don't network for the sake of networking. Always have value. Always know what you're doing. Have an agenda. Be practical. And hustle.
Hustle hard. Yeah.
Hustle smart. Hustle smart.
Hustle smart. Okay, right. Work smart.
Work smart.
Hustle
but this
smart.
is actually, Yoel told me something interesting. He told me, if you want to work smart, you first need to work hard. So you know what's smart work, right? So it's a game, it's a balance. But
actually,
hustle and work smart. That's what I would do.
Vladdy Sandler, I'm sure you know him, right?
I don't.
And he said, I also came, I don't know you, because sometimes people say, okay, a Filipina, what do I talk with her? I mean, what's the topic or context? And then he said, okay, I came because I know we can both give value to each other. So, like what you said, right? Be of value. Okay, so before I say goodbye, can you just say, hello, I'm Omri, and I'm on the I Am podcast.
Hello, I'm Omri Hurwitz, and I'm on the I Am podcast. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my website, our website, omrihurwitz.com. Follow see our clients in action. Let's do it.
Thank you very much, Omri, and it was such a pleasure. Maybe I'm gonna be thankful because the other one you did not say yes, but I send you some questions? I didn't, right?
No.
So, but you were very generous of your time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Keep up the great work, and keep up the great work. You're doing an awesome job. You're an amazing interviewer, and keep hustling. Keep doing your job.
Hey. Thank you for listening. What a great episode that was. Be sure to tell me your biggest takeaway via our LinkedIn page. And if you have any specific requests for topics and suggestions, email me at may@iamops.io. That's MAE@IAMOPS.io. I'd be happy to speak with you. I'll see you again next week on the I Am Podcast. This podcast is powered by iamops.io. Optimize your cloud infrastructure and CI/CD process with iamops.io dedicated DevOps team. Check out www.iamops.io and get a DevOps team now. Make sure to check out www.iamops.io if you want to know more about us. Subscribe to our podcast so you can get notified every time we post a new video. Thank you, and you have a great day.